never smoke the dizzy, but we can always share some disease. It's just a cup in time. This song doesn't have to rhyme. Life's all of us, not every moment we can be feeling fine. I wanna share a moment, just a second if you will, maybe even a cup of thrill. We could share this performance. It's tea time, come sit with me.
Well, welcome everybody. Miss Liz is back, and that's right. And I have another incredible guest in the house. We have Leo X Robertson coming in from Norway. That's right. So all of my cousins that are tuning in, I brought you a little homie here. So before we get started, we're going to get everybody over to Miss Liz's YouTube channel and Spotify and platforms and all that. Just like, subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff, and get these tea times out to all of the co-workers, friends, families, individuals in your community that you think it might pick up. Or if somebody just looking for something to listen to that's a little different, because Miss Liz doesn't serve a beverage, I serve. Today's tea is going to be peaceful, curious, and confusing. That's right. We got a really interesting tea coming to you. So let's get the disclaimer going and intro, and let's get Leo in here and let's spill some tea together. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Time live show. Miss Liz's Tea Time is a global platform dedicated to sharing real life stories, diverse perspectives, and meaningful conversations that inspire awareness, healing, and connection. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment during the live broadcast, please grant StreamYard permission to display your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that all the content brought forward during any Tea Time show is presented in good faith. However, discussions may include opinions, beliefs, and perspectives that do not necessarily represent the views of Miss Liz or the Tea Time platform. Information shared by guests is based on their own experiences and perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All guests, viewers, and participants are responsible for using their own judgment when considering any action or decision that may relate to these discussions. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics, including but not limited to trauma, abuse, grief, mental health, and other emotionally triggering subjects. Listeners' and viewers' discretion is strongly advised. Tea Time with Miss Liz is an open discussion forum designed to offer insight, inspire awareness, and create connection. It is not a substitute for professional, medical, legal, or therapeutical advice. If you require professional support, please seek assistance from qualified professionals or trusted resources in your area. If you have any questions regarding this disclaimer or the content of the discussion, you are welcome to contact me at my email at bookingmissliz@gmail.com or check out my link tree at Miss Liz's Tea Time. By choosing to participate in, comment on, or view these live shows, you acknowledge and accept this disclaimer. Your participation is entirely voluntary. I, Miss Liz, welcomes you to join the discussion and conversation with an open heart, and if at any time you feel this platform is not right for you, I respect those wishes and decision and welcome you back whenever you are ready. Tea Time with Miss Liz is serving truth and awareness one cup at a time. Now let me give you a little bit on who is sitting in the back. Today, I'm excited to welcome Leo X Robertson, a writer, filmmaker, and creative visionary who works and breaks boundaries and builds worlds. Leo's bold approach to storytelling takes us on a journey that challenges convention, awaken imagination, and spark deeper thoughts. This afternoon, we'll explore his topic, Breaking Rules, Building Worlds. Leo X Robertson, creative obdesity, gets ready for a fascinating conversation about the art of pushing limits, embracing risk, and creating stories that leave a lasting impact. Please let me join in welcoming Leo X Robertson to Tea Time, and we'll be talking about his book as well. So let me get him in here. Welcome, Leo.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Nice to chat.
So, Leo, I'm going to take you down the little rabbit hole just to get started. So, who was Leo as a little guy, and who is Leo now?
Oh wow, great question. Leo's a little guy. Is growing up in Glasgow, in Scotland. He's too chatty. He's not paying enough attention to schoolwork, but he's very curious. He's reading books in the back of the room when no one's looking, and thinks he's getting away with something, but clearly he could be seen doing that. but the teachers don't mind because it constitutes work. He is learning. He's just doing his own curriculum. Leo now is exactly the same.
I like that you threw that word curious in there, Leo, because that's part
Yeah,
of your T is curious.
it
So
is.
I
Yeah,
guess
yeah,
that's where the curious comes in, right? The little guy.
yeah. Always curious. Always trying to learn new things, and yeah, I like to be kind of positive, lift people up, and engage in curious chats, curious open chats. So I hope that's what we're having today. Sounds like it.
Well, Leo, part of your T is also peaceful and confusing. So how does
Mhm.
curious, confusing, and peaceful all to go together?
This is a human mystery, right? We can hold conflicting things in our heads at the same time. I actually think that we're not fully satisfied unless we have a bit of cognitive dissonance on the go, unless we have paradoxes that we're holding in our head at the same time. I certainly feel like I've not gotten the full package unless I've figured out why something doesn't make sense, you know? So I'm not at peace unless I am confused. Because if I'm not confused, I'm not thinking hard enough about something. So I suppose that's how it all wraps together. But I just came up with that.
Pretty amazing how that T just comes in, right? And makes sense when it goes all together. When we start putting all of the different words to describe ourselves in our T's, that's how we open up our story, right? And understand it a little bit more. And you're like, oh, okay, I get it. I get it. So if you could add a little bit of cream to that confusing, peaceful, and curious, what kind of cream would you add to it?
Oh, interesting. The cream of achievement and meaning and yeah, cream of achievement and meaning, right? Because that's what comes out of this process. It's not without its rewards. And yeah, I think this person I'm describing, somebody who's curious, who does try and make connections to interesting people, connections between them, connections with them, is part of creating more meaning in the world, more community, and I feel that storytelling comes into that as well. So
Okay.
that's what I pour in my tea. Yeah.
I kind of like that you added that cream because I want to get into some of your achievements because when I did some homework on you, I've seen that you've achieved a lot of stuff. Uh, you know, uh, so what got you into the different avenues in life? Because you've done a spam of fiction, films, app development. Like you've done a lot of different areas in life, right? So what got you into
I,
that?
yeah, I guess so. I think that part of my mission of making connections and empowering people, which I think is it's become a bigger part of what I do now because I make films, and in making films, I've been helping other people to make films and passing on my knowledge about it. And in order to have kind of no stakes, low threshold entryway into these different avenues, I say like as soon as somebody has any interest in filmmaking in particular, then they are a filmmaker, right? If somebody has any kind of interest in writing a story, to me they are a writer. As soon as that impulse hits them, I don't feel like there's anything more they have to do to achieve that label, because I certainly, after having done these various things for a long time, don't necessarily feel worthy of the label of them after all this time. But then, as you say, if you look back at some of the things I've done, I think, okay, if I don't feel like a writer now, I'm never going to feel like a writer. But this is what I then pass on to other people. It's like, okay, if there's no amount of writing that will ever make you feel worthy of the title of writer, so you might as well have it now, right?
Yeah.
So you might call me an app developer. I made like one bad app that doesn't work, but I spent a lot of time on it.
But if you don't try, you don't know, right? That's what I always tell
well,
everybody: try.
it's so rewarding though. Like it's amazing to me to have made a bad app that doesn't work. That's certainly more than I'd done last year. I hadn't made anything, but I think that, I mean, it sounds like your podcast is open to deeper conversations about people's lives. And I started writing after my mother passed away because she loved, she was an English teacher and she loved Shakespeare. And so it was like an avenue to keeping her alive in a way by pursuing one of her disciplines or carrying on the torch of one of her passions, right? And then years later, my dad unfortunately passed away as well. But I used to love watching films with him, and he was a creative guy, and he was much more outgoing, extroverted than I was. And I thought, okay, if I make films, I would need to collaborate with other people, which makes me personally very deeply uncomfortable. But discomfort allows for growth and things like that. So I thought this sounds like an avenue for growth and a way of carrying on the torch of my dad. So really, I am kind of honoring the legacy of people that I love through my creative pursuits, and passing on the energy of those people to other people. That's what I feel like I'm doing with these various things. And that's where the drive to achieve these things still comes from to this day, really.
Well, Leo, we don't realize what legacy we're leaving behind until we really sit, right, and look within ourselves like we're doing right now. And you're realizing, oh, you know what? I am leaving a legacy of dad and mom and that, through the storytelling, through the writing. How old were you when you wrote your first story, Leo?
I was 22 years old. I had a dream that I thought was very interesting, and I tried to record it in words the next morning. And then I just kept writing it. I kept expanding it into my first bad novel, and then I stuck that in a drawer after it got rejected several times from many people, because I didn't know what was quality or not. I left that to the gatekeepers to decide, and they rightly decided my book was not of any good quality. So I put that in the drawer, and then I just kept writing. I had more ideas, and I kept writing those ideas, and then eventually some of them started to get published. And then when they did, when I got acceptance emails, I thought, okay, oh, that must have been good then. Like, I had no real gauge on the quality of my own work. I still don't really. But yeah, that's how I got started, and that's.
Well, what I'm hearing with your story, Leo, is you made a bad app, you got rejected, but you're still trying, and that's an important message for all the listeners out there, right? Is just keep going. Don't give up. Just try. If it fails, it fails, but you learn a lot from those failures. So what did it teach you about all of the bad app and the rejection? What did it teach you about yourself, Leo?
Oh, it continues to teach me things all the time. I think that I think I've always been. I remain somebody who's a little bit afraid of feedback, but I found ways to seek it out, not necessarily safely, because it's never really a safe experience receiving feedback, but definitely in ways that are just beyond my comfort levels and not like way beyond them, right? So one other thing I started doing recently, and I'm doing tomorrow, is I have a stand-up comedy at an open mic. I've been doing that for the last 2 years, and it often comes with no laughter. Now I can have thought for like a whole month. I'll have like a 5-minute slot. I'll think for a whole month to try and create 5 minutes of things that I think are going to make people laugh, and I'll create 10 minutes and then crunch those down, and then I'll go, listen, I've thought about this for a whole month. It's only 5 minutes. This is the funniest stuff I could collect in that month. If you're not laughing at that, I know for a fact I did my best, but it
took me a whole month to put it together.
Yeah. I think it's just this kind of, I'm trying to learn. I don't think any of us really achieve this Buddhist level of detachment from the outcome of our work, right? But certainly, having written for a really long time, or having made films for many years, when I show a film to somebody and they don't like it, or if I send out a story and it gets rejected from a place that I thought was definitely going to accept it, I think, listen, if after all this time and all of this work, I still don't have the answers here, like, I have to take the burden of knowing that off of myself now. And then I have to go into the world a bit more like that as well, and just go, listen, I'm out at dinner with friends, and I think we should talk about this. And this is the most interesting thing I can think to talk about. And if they don't really like it, I have no. It's taught me just how little of a sure gauge I have on how well or how badly I'm being received all the time in the world, and just to let go of trying to control that, and just being authentic and saying what you think is right in the moment, and just doing your best, and then letting the outcomes be what they are. And I think that more than any success that can come from getting a book out, which I finally have a book out, and getting a film in a festival, which is also very thrilling. Being seen to do this process in public inspires other people to do it. And that is the biggest takeaway I can give people, is to let people, is to model how I think a person should act, and let that inspire other people to act in that way if they think it works for them also. Whew, that was a long answer.
There you go. I like the long answers. You know why? Because then I don't have to talk. I can just listen.
I know. I thought so. Yeah.
My guests are on the spot. It's not me. It's you. Let's talk about your book, because Mickey sent me your book called Bar Hopping for Astronauts. I'm going to pull up the book so you can describe the cover a little bit on how you got it and all that good stuff, and what inspired you to write this book.
Yes, sure. So here comes the cover. Yes, full title is Bar Hopping for Astronauts: Cosmic Horror, Late Stage Capitalism, and Other Light Reading. It's a collection of sci-fi short stories that I've written over a period of 10 years or something. Now, as I say, I start things very badly, and a lot of that 10 years was learning how to write sci-fi short stories, which I think are the toughest ones to write, because not only do you need to create, in any kind of short story, you need compelling characters, you need a plot, you need a turning point, all of these you need a setting, you need all of these things to be justified. In a sci-fi short story, you also need to introduce a new technology. You also need to tell a story that justifies the need for that new technology to be there, have it be understood by the reader, and have it be used in a story that tells us something about ourselves. It's the biggest challenge I can think of, I think, to write a sci-fi short story, and so I'm particularly proud of this book. And I think it's very accessible. Not all of my writing is, but this one I think is a great entryway into my writing. Some of the stories were published previously by Pulp Literature, who are the publisher. They published them in their magazine, and so I thought maybe they will like a full collection. They hadn't published something like this before, so I was just I wasn't very sure that they were going to accept it, and when they did, I was thrilled. And we've been editing these stories together over the last few months, I think. And the cover came from their artist, and they've done a beautiful job of that, because I think it represents the kind of the colorful chaos of the stories and the different range of them. So I'm very pleased with how it looks and how the book.
So Leo, Leo, do you want to share a little bit about what the cover looks like for the audio listeners that may not see the video?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at a beautiful sky over a futuristic city in silhouette, and then there's like a signpost, like at a road stop, in the foreground that has the title Bar Hopping for Astronauts, and then different signs for cosmic horror, late stage capitalism, and other light reading, as if directing the reader towards these stories. Open here for these various themes.
I kind of like the layout of it, all the different colors popping up. It's like almost like a film, right? Go look at it, like check it out, like, like big Hollywood shout out, like bar hopping and astronauts right on the top, and then cosmic horror kind of brings you into like, oh, okay, this is what this is about. Kind of gives you like stages, different stages of the film. Is
yeah,
that
it's
what
like
you're
a
going
big,
for?
I guess like a big gaudy Times Square neon, like roll up and get your short stories here kind of thing. To me, it gives me that. Yeah, definitely got it. Yeah, I think you got it there. Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah, that's what I got from it. And so any of my viewers out there or listeners out there, when you check out the cover, and check out the book is available, correct, Leo?
It's coming out mid-October. I don't think we have a proper release date yet. But if you go to the website, you can pre-order and get it along with back issues of the magazine as well, which is awesome. I highly recommend that.
Awesome. So how do cosmic horror and social critique intertwine in your storytelling?
Well, some of these stories I wrote in my 20s when I was a bit more lost and pessimistic, I suppose, and I think that's what cosmic horror is for. I mean, for me, I think of Lovecraft, or I just read Robert Chambers' The King in Yellow, stories like that. It's where kind of inexplicable dark forces of the universe intervene with ordinary humans in ways that are inexplicable to them. And I certainly feel like that at times. I mean, with the loss of my parents and so on, you always wonder, is there a grander logic here, and what could it possibly be, and how could it possibly be benevolent, right? And that's the horror of those types of stories. The cosmic horror element in this book, it makes me think of a story called The Glow in particular, which is about a woman who goes to an island of plastic in the sea, where she believes her sister is living with a cult that worships glowing plants that seem to have come from an extraterrestrial source. And so it's just this idea that you can grow up with someone like a sister. I was thinking of my own sister, I think, when I wrote the story, and I'm very close to her. But you can love somebody very dearly and think that they will be in your life your entire life. But as we know, there are forces like cults that can take people from very loving families. And so I've added a cosmic horror element of this because there's something cosmic horror about cults, this idea that something unknowable, inexplicable, and perhaps too strong for you to combat can take away something that you love. Yeah.
So have you had a personal experience with cults, Leo?
Thankfully not. Beyond my obsession with the documentaries and full knowledge that if they'd found me at a younger age, I might have been very attracted to the notion of joining one. So I approach cults with fascination and absolutely no judgment for who gets involved in them, but with definite fear as well.
So is that something you're drawn to, like to understand it more?
Definitely. I think I'm drawn to understand. I'm drawn to not judge people who seek meaning in unconventional places because life is difficult and at times it seems meaningless, and therefore we jump upon sources of meaning that are unconventional, that might harm us even, but you're still thankful that the source of meaning is there, even if it is harmful.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in exploring these types of themes in stories. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm drawn to understanding the mindset, right? Of what starts it, what creates it, and what continues it. Because cults come together and then cults fall apart. So what's the underlining of it, right? I know we're going off topic here, but sometimes we have to slip the tea and kind of go down some rabbit holes to understand it. We have a listener here that's asking you mentioned your sister. So did your sister experience a personal experience with a cult, or was she drawn to one? Or
no, not at all. I think that my sister, I love her dearly. Shout out to my sister Chloe. She's a great person. She's very close to me in my life. But then, when she is 5 years older than me, so I was very close to her, and she was very important to me growing up, especially as a nervous teenager going to school, and I didn't really enjoy it. But she went to the same school, and she was older, and older people are always cooler, right? So they introduce you to their friends, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. And she took me to the restaurant where she works, and on my birthday once, and everyone was like, oh my God, it's Leo's birthday. And I was like, I can't believe all these cool adults know it's my birthday, right? But then she went away to university in St. Andrews when I was in Glasgow. And this is, I guess, the first experience of me being just distant from her and understanding that people will pursue different paths in life where they are distant from you. So thankfully, it's never gotten that extreme. But with storytelling, you can take these smaller losses you experience and then extrapolate them into something bigger and imagine how they could be much worse than they are. So there's a true emotional core to it. But thankfully, me and my sister remain very close to this day.
Well, shout out to big sisters, right?
Big sisters everywhere. They're the best.
Right? Shout out to all the big sisters out there. I'm a big sister, so
okay, I see what you're up to. Yeah. Get yourself a shout out. Yeah.
Right? A little shout out here and there. We have a question that came in here for you. Many describe your work as part of the transgression friction new wave.
Yeah.
What does that term mean to you personally?
Well, I've just been reading I love commercial fiction, right? I love fiction that what I think of as commercial or mainstream is something that is going to challenge me, but not in a way that really disturbs me or makes me deeply uncomfortable. It can challenge me intellectually or emotionally in a way that respects kind of various conventional boundaries that I might have in order to please a broad audience. I totally understand that perspective, and I love reading that kind of thing. When I talk about this book that's coming out, Bar Hopping for Astronauts, this is something that I feel could be appropriate for a general audience. But I certainly have other work that is not appropriate for a general audience, in that it pushes taboos and boundaries that are unacceptable for dinner table discussion, we will say. And I find so much value in that, because fiction can go anywhere. We talked about pushing limits, breaking boundaries as part of this conversation. And you can create stories to imagine, to test the limits of morals and social conventions and better understand why they are there. You know, I think it's very difficult to create a transgressive story that is in itself immoral, even if immoral things happen in it. But certainly to me, transgressive means tasteless, even, you know, almost willfully tasteless. I love that, but I love that kind of thing in fiction. I talk to Matthew Stolko sometimes, who wrote the novel Cows, which I think is fantastic. Dennis Cooper, who has a new film out, which I'm really excited to see. Some of these other transgressive authors are my idols. And they, as well as me, will be as pressed to really pin down what the term means. But if that sounds like your thing, go for it, you know?
You mentioned the word taboo and dinner table conversation. I like that because I like to go deep. My audience knows that. Miss Liz likes to go down the deep rabbit hole sometimes, right? So for you, what is a taboo dinner conversation that you think that we need more of in today's world?
Okay. A thing that I'm thinking about a lot in my stories now, and what I've been talking about recently, is like different types of strength. And I think that I think a very taboo thing that will make you a lot of enemies very quickly, unfortunately, is getting men to talk about their feelings. Right, I think we can all relate to that, right? We all know, as soon as I say
you
that.
know what, Mrs. likes to make enemies, because I don't like everybody to like my cup of tea, right? And that's why I like going down these rabbit holes, Leo, is because we have to have these open conversations where we're going to make enemies and we're going to have people question why we're having this conversation. We should be able to have these open conversations in a clean, decent way, like we're having right now. You know, and feelings is one thing that we don't talk about much. We kind of put them under the carpet, right?
Yeah. So I think that's, for me, is because, as we know, there's kind of new waves in the culture that are quite damaging, that seem to emphasize in men stoicism and physical strength, which I've come to see from examples in my own life are completely separate types of strength from emotional resilience. And you know, you can physically defend somebody, but if you cannot be there for them emotionally, you're just missing out from why we're all here, really, you know. And I feel like people are repressing that, I guess because it's scary, and then they pretend it's because they're strong, and it creates this very difficult ideological loop to break out of. But I mean, we all know that this is affecting our world a lot these days. But that's the kind of thing that I see affecting global politics, and also the people I meet at the dinner table. Like I say, that's one of these real issues that hits home. I guess it's made itself known to me in particular because I would hope that the types of stories I do open. I know they do. I know they open the door for these kind of conversations, because I go on stage and I tell what I'm trying to do with my fiction, and every kind of project I do, is to make it very, very personal, therefore authentic, therefore within the wheelhouse of things that I can talk about, right? Because we talked about the tea being peaceful but confusing. There's lots of topics I just don't feel like I know enough about, but I'm the leading expert on me, right? So I'm going to talk about me, and I'll be able to say something about me. But sometimes I'll tell jokes on stage that are about things that have happened to me that are very personal, very difficult to deal with. And people will come up to me afterwards and confess things to me because they know that that opened a door for them to do that. So that's a taboo that I find very personal as a man and as somebody who I really hope could break down some of the emotional boundaries that are holding people back from expressing their own emotions. Yeah.
We just Leo, we just had a question come in.
Mhm.
For taboo, do you use that in your comedy stand-up, like to break some of the taboo that's out there?
Oof, 100%. Yeah, I get to play. I'm not even the one who pushes it the most. Honestly, I've asked other comedians, "Do you think I can say this about you on stage as a joke?" And they will, and some of them have said, "Listen, on stage, everything is permissible." I don't. I trust that everything I do comes from a core desire to, comes from a core place of kindness. Everything I do has to come from a core place of kindness, and every joke I tell is like that. Even if I am playing a very misanthropic character sometimes who talks about how funny it is when he sees kids fall down in cafes and it makes his day, or things like that, you know.
Well, they're like bloopers, right? Oops, you can tell.
Yeah. But to me, it ties into a notion of people I know. Everyone my age, I'm 36, is thinking about whether or not they should have had kids, and therefore, perhaps the real intent of the joke is for me to say, you know, having kids might not all be cracked up to be, but put it in a comedic lens, you know, this kind of thing. It's not got to be a lecture; it has to make people laugh. But most of my jokes come from a place of trying to ease cultural tensions, right?
We have a question that came in here about your stand-up. How do you experience in stand-up comedy and engineering influence your creative process?
Excellent question. Excellent question. The best thing that stand-up has given me is having to face the instant feedback. Because like I said, like as a person, that's given me so much. Because like I said, I was very afraid of it. But you just, if you come away from silent audiences after many occasions, that's just such a valuable thing for a person to go through. Because I'm able to see that it's not that they don't like me, they don't actually know anything about me. What they saw was a performance of mine, and what they heard were words of mine, which they did not like. They didn't like my work. It's got nothing to do with whether or not they liked me. Then I take that into my day job, and I used to be terrified of my day job. I think most people are. I had huge imposter syndrome when I started, because I was just like, and they were teaching me like, this is how the simulations work, and this is how you do spreadsheets, and I was like, well, I guess I'll try and learn this, but you're going to fire me because why am I here? You know.
But you tried. That's that trying again.
Yeah.
Like, I know he's gonna fire me, but I'm gonna try it anyway, right? I'll do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But of course, you know, living life without that horrible attitude of feeling that you're always going to get caught out is much more pleasant. So I definitely advocate trying to ease that, and comedy has definitely helped me with that. And and engineering, what does that give me? Gives me a real connection to the world, because engineering is a hugely hierarchical and meritocratic world, right? If you've got the grades, you get in, you get the good job, you get a set amount of money every month. The artistic world is not like that whatsoever. You could be working 20 years and making nothing. You can have just started to be making millions, right? Your work can be objectively brilliant or objectively not brilliant, or subjectively brilliant to one person but not to another. And so it's really taught me how lucky I am that the job I had that pays the bills is one that is within a meritocratic world. I'm glad to have a job that uses those skills in a way that can provide me a steady salary, and I feel very fortunate. And engineering can be a bubble where engineers only talk to other engineers, and then they can become a little too interested in this hierarchy and who's better or worse than anyone else, because who's done this longer than anyone else, who knows anything more than anyone else. But dipping my toes into the arts, and where I don't see that structure at all, I'm just glad that such a structure exists, and I'm glad to step outside of it as well and not take it too seriously. I hope that answers the question.
Well, it kind of goes into the next question that just came in. What challenges have you faced balancing autistic authenticity with industry expectations?
What was the first part I balanced with industry expectations?
What challenges have you faced balancing autistic authenticity with industry expectations?
Autistic authenticity, is it?
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Oh my God, so many. I mean, I spend
See, we
so
go down
much
the rabbit holes because this is what it does, right? Is these questions
I
come
didn't
in, and I'm
even
just
know
like,
this.
I'm
Like, where did this
curious too.
information
Like, I want
come
to
about
know
me?
too.
I have huge. Every morning at my work, there's like a coffee half hour where everyone sits and has a chat and has a laugh, and I can't even stand the noise of it, so I have to go into a quiet room. Or
Can't
put
stand that
earplugs
coffee.
in.
I'm going.
Yeah. And then they think like, oh, Leo doesn't like me. I think I often pursue these artistic avenues because lots of artists pursue the arts because they find themselves so inarticulate face to face, right? And I feel like, or just when I take a book to lunch, I have to read at lunch, and people come up and try and save me from my book because they think there's something wrong with me that I can't connect with other people. And really, I don't want saved from my book. I just want to recharge at lunch by reading. So, but you know what, engineering world, you're going to find lots of other people like that, so I don't feel alone in it. I hope I'm a bit of a trailblazer in the way that I act in the office, because I know there's other people who want to act that way. And you know, we've got to protect our own energy, and we've got to look after ourselves, and know how to look after ourselves, because nobody's going to notice if you're sitting at a coffee table with other people, plastering a smile on and not knowing what to say. It's not going to serve you or them.
Well, it's saving the energy, right? Saving your balance.
Yeah,
And it's
I
okay
think
to
also,
say, you know what, this is not my cup of coffee. This is not my cup of tea. I'm just gonna go and recharge myself over there by myself, and kind of get the energy up inside myself, the inner energy, right? And we don't talk about that enough, is that, we're not trying to be rude or trying to say no, but we know how authentic we are. So we can't sit at that table and just put on that plastic smile and say, you know what, yeah, okay, I like this conversation, when really we don't.
yeah, and I think what I've really learned from being in Norway, what's taken me a lot of time, I don't know if it is true or not, right? But I act like I belong here, right? But I've got to tell you, Norwegian culture is very unusual to outsiders in that they're extremely contented with the way they do life with one another. They do not make adult friends very easily. It's very tough to get invited to dinner with a Norwegian. It's very easy to feel like an outsider, but it's very easy to feel like an outsider anyway. But it's actually easier to get along in life acting like you belong. I mean, recently we just made a film festival, and I've been told by people at work, for example, like, you got to stop talking about films. You shouldn't pursue this so much because it's going to affect your engineering career, for example, right? Fine, fair perspective. I don't resent them. They're trying to help when they say that. It's a weird kind of help, but whatever. But we set up a film festival. There's no film festival in this city, and we set it up with all of our knowledge and expertise of attending film festivals, which nobody told us to do, and people actively advised us not to do. But we had huge attendance. People had a great time. We're looking to do the next one. We got to celebrate local filmmakers in ways that they are not otherwise celebrated. We got to make connections between people who wouldn't have otherwise met. And therefore, because of, like, by believing that I belong in this place, by acting authentically as myself, I managed to provide something that I feel only I could authentically provide. It's very difficult to hold on to, and I think it gets easier as an adult. But I got so passionate about that I forgot the question once. But I hope that answered it.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Sometimes that's what happens, right?
Yeah.
But you mentioned film festivals. So did you bring film festivals to Norway?
I live in Stavanger. Stavanger now has a film festival. It is our festival. It's called the Stavanger Indie International Film Festival. We did it the end of August. We're going to do it every year. We're already planning next year. It's going to be bigger and better. But I make films, and some of them get into film festivals, and I've been to them, and I've seen what they do right, and I've seen how I would do my own version, and I've seen how I would develop what I've seen. And so we added all that kind of knowledge together, and booked a venue, and requested films, got some great ones, showed them, had some sponsors, and yeah. So that's one of the many ventures our filmmaking crew's been doing here. We're bigger and better all the time.
Again, it's that trying, right? If you didn't try, you wouldn't know. So you tried, and now look at next year again in August. Check it out. Like,
do your best. Just so do your best. Can't do any better. No.
So Leo, we had a question here about your many awards. It says you've won multiple awards for your films. Which project has had the deepest personal impact on you, and why?
Great question. Thank you for the question. So we won Best International Feature Film, Best LGBTQ Film, Best Smartphone Film for various films. Every time a film of mine gets shown, I'm very grateful, because now that I'm behind the scenes of what work goes into festival and how much good work does not get shown, very grateful anytime a film of mine is given any kind of a platform. The film of mine that means the most is coming out on October 10th, actually. It's called Cherophobe, Cherophobe. It means somebody who's afraid of happiness. A good writer friend of mine called Bo Chappell, who lives in South Carolina, sent me the script. And it was about a breakup that he went through at the time. And it's about a writer who is feeling very melancholy, and then he starts talking to a voice in his head about his life and what he's trying to achieve in life. Really beautiful film that I made with my friend Omar, who was the cameraman, my friend Sam, who was the writer, my friend Tom did the soundtrack. We were a very small team. We made a very polished film that's coming out, and it was giving voice to a difficult time that a friend of mine had. It was just this perfect accumulation of skill and friendship and everything, and it just taught me, like, this is exactly the kind of thing that only indie film can do, because only in indie film where you get to pick everyone you get to work with and they can be your best friends. And that obviously has big risks to it, but in that case it paid off in such a beautiful way that it's one of the few films I've made where I can tell anyone, watch Cherophobe October 10th, find it on YouTube.
On YouTube. Oh, okay. I'm gonna make sure to check
I'll
that
send
out.
you the link. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely, because I would like to check that out, and I'll get it out there for you.
Lovely.
So we have another question here for you, Leo. How do you see storytelling as a tool for cultural critique in today's world?
It's the perfect place for it, because it's a sandbox, and it's invented, so it's a layer removed from reality, and you can test what if scenarios. I mean, the most rewarding thing, I always say that, like, a good story is something that you discover. It's not what you know. You write it because you want to figure out what you're trying to say, and then you present that like a scientist giving a paper of results at the end of your experiment, which is the first draft writing phase, right? So you can absolutely find out how you feel about things by writing about a scenario that interests you, and you can demonstrate to other people why you feel that, and that can involve cultural critique. As an exercise for new filmmakers, for example, I've said, what is like a thing that somebody said to you recently that hit you as off? You don't know why. It just disturbed you a little bit, or made you uncomfortable, or you can't stop thinking about it, but you don't know why you can't stop thinking about it. And then I say, well, just write down the dialogue you had with that person on the page, and then write down what you wish you would have said next, or why you think they said that, or where they just come from, or who are they to say those kind of things, and get to know the world better, and hold a mirror up to it. It's the perfect place for cultural critique. It's a very safe and inviting place for cultural critique in a very loud, aggressive, hostile, rapid, clickbaity world. You can take a bit longer time to explore things in more depth. Yeah.
What kind of goes right into the next question here is, what advice would you give to emerging authors or filmmakers who want to push the boundaries in their work?
Lovely, yeah, go for it. Absolutely. I think that you often find the most experimental or ambitious work comes from younger people who are not so aware of the rules that they are breaking, and that can be fantastic. You know, I think that we become a bit more conservative as we carry on writing, or I find myself diving more in depth into the heads of particular characters and less creating ambitious, crazy, complex worlds of things. But you'll learn everything you need to know in the doing of it. As I said, just give it a go. And take yourself seriously. This is how you can get up to speed faster than me, is if you want to be a writer, don't kind of half-heartedly do it or pretend you were just kidding or something, you know, to start calling yourself a writer straight ahead and go for it, and write whatever the hell you want. And you can figure out everything later, you know, like, oh, is this going to offend her, or are people going to think this about me? You can think all of that later once it's out your head. And then you can decide, you know, I'll risk what people think of me having written this if you feel like it, you know.
Well, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, right? There's always going to be somebody that's going to judge it. So you might as well just try it and do it. You know, if you have a book within you or a film within you, just write it, just do it, try it. That's what I'm getting from your story today, Leo, is, you know, just keep trying. You know, it doesn't matter. And discover, like when you said discovery, I was just like, is that where Discovery Channel came from? I don't know why I went to Discovery
Yeah,
so
probably,
like,
right? Yeah.
I can see your work on Discovery Channel. You know, just taking you
Nice.
down those avenues and different perspectives in life, like even just your life in general, the stand-up comedy, the filmmaking, the writing, it's all different avenues and different paths in life that you try, you know. And then the 9 to 5 job, like I'm that same way. Like 9 to 5 job is what pays the bills, right? But is that where our passion is? Is that where our purpose is? Not really. So I think that's where we feel like we're being the imposter, right? Like you mentioned, like the imposter syndrome, because we have to show up to pay the bill, right? We gotta make the income. So so yeah. So going down these different avenues in life, Leo, what is the one that stands out the most to you?
I'm still a writer overall. I mean, I write the film. The films come first from a written script, and the stand-up comedy I write like a piece of prose over and over. And you know, I think that comedy is the one that is the most kind of, I don't know, like each of these different pursuits. This is the thing. Each of these different pursuits have their own rules about how you're supposed to write it, how you're supposed to perform it, how you're supposed to make money from it or not, right? And it's all completely made up. Like if I send a short story to a magazine and they charged me a reading fee, I would think that they were unprofessional. Fair enough, they shouldn't be charging me a reading fee, right? But if I sent a film out and they did not charge me a submission fee, I would think they were unprofessional, because why are they not charging me a submission fee? Everyone charges a submission fee. Are they not a prestigious enough place to be charging me for it? If I did stand-up comedy, the stand-up comics don't ask for art grants typically, because they like to build their own audience. If they, why should I get an art grant? Does that mean I don't have an audience? If you make a film, nobody will make a film with you without an art grant, because why did you not get an art grant? Is your film not good enough? But then therefore they will not be as interested in building an audience. It's all completely made up. It's all cultural. It all doesn't matter that much, and you're free to pursue it however you like. Like I was sitting with a bunch of stand-up comics. I'm very new to stand-up comedy. I should not even be talking about it. But I was sitting with a bunch of them. They just had bullet points on paper, and they say, you know, these are my bits, but I'm not going to decide what they are. I'm going to go up and I'm going to find out what I want to say on the stage. Wow, I cannot do that. I need to know every single word I'm going to say first. So I had this whole script presented of what I was going to say. And then that in turn intimidated them, because they thought, should I have a script? And I thought, should I only have bullet points? It's, you know, it's just be, like you say, be yourself, try it out. It all comes down to that, you know? Yeah.
Well, it always comes back to should I be doing it that way or should I not be doing it that way? Or am I doing it wrong? Am I doing it right? We're always questioning ourselves. At the end of the day, we just got to go up and do it. Stand-up comedy, that's got to be scary because you're going on stage. But if you have a script, Leo, and you get on stage, do you sometimes throw that script out by just scanning the room and saying, you know what, this is not going to work for this group?
100%. Oh my god, yeah. There's so you're just like, okay, that didn't land. We're not doing the next paragraph. Like,
we're gonna skip 4 and 5, and we're gonna jump to 7. And
yeah, but worse, you just go like, well, I only practice 1 to 7, and I've got to be here for 5 minutes, so you're getting the full thing one way or another.
4 and 5 are slipping in at the end.
Yeah, it's like I lost you in 1 and 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 are not going to work, but I still have time, so I'm going to say them.
Yeah. I can see you being an amazing stand-up comedy because just having this conversation with you, like we went down some rabbit holes and some really, personal rabbit holes as well. And we got some chuckles out of it. So we got some giggles out of it, and the listeners are chuckling around with us, and, they're enjoying it. So, but we do have a couple more questions before we wrap up. We're almost at the end here, and I want to get those out to you because I think that these ones are pretty cool. First book or film that blew your mind?
First book that blew my mind, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend it anyway, was We Need to Talk About Kevin. You might remember that one. Lionel Shriver. It's about a mother whose son is a school shooter. But I read that when I was 19, and all of the anxieties that this mother had about having kids one day were mine, and I didn't know you could say them. I thought you had to keep them in your head. But she put them to the page, and then I no longer had them alone. And they were articulated for me by somebody more articulate than me. And then I thought, wow, this is the job of a writer, because I feel so connected. And then this, I suppose, ties into the transgression, is because I was found in the taboo, right? I was found in the things you're not supposed to say. And I suppose I became compelled to write things you're not supposed to say, to give that feeling to other people, because that was hugely influential to me at the time. Would I recommend it now? I wouldn't even recommend it at the time. It's a very dark book. First film that blew me away, and I've been talking about it again recently, is Lost in Translation, which I saw with my dad when I was 15 years old. And I think the thing about it that fascinates me even more now is that it is a time pre-social media, pre-internet proliferation. So when these characters are in Japan by themselves and they don't know anyone, they really have no connection. They can't go online and talk to people. They have to wait for their friends to wake up. One guy gets a fax in the middle of the night. It just has captured this loneliness that really feels like a pre-internet feeling. Not a particularly nice one, but it's just interesting to see it captured on film. And so that is an interesting function of film to me. The notion of capturing a particular place and time that people can go back to and have those feelings re-evoked.
And this question, what does pushing boundaries mean to you in 2025?
Hoi. In 2025. Like I say, I have a wheelhouse, right, which is male intimacy. That fascinates me. So picking one thing that I think I can say something definitely about, that's what it means in 2025. Because I feel like we're very much called to comment broadly on topics we've only just heard of, and vilified, therefore, for our completely uneducated opinions. So, yeah, it means speaking eloquently and kindly, but firmly, about topics you definitely know something about.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing that, Leo. The next one, a dream collaboration, living or dead?
Oh, I'm trying to get Dennis Cooper to come show us his film. That's a secret, but he's got this film out called Room Temperature. I know it's going to be fantastic. His last film was Permanent Green Light, which did not get enough viewers. You can find it on Vimeo. I'm no way connected to him. I just love this film. It's a fantastic indie film. I would love to talk to him. Dream collaborator, dead. I would love to have a coffee with Albert Camus and talk about how amazing it is that, you know, coffee isn't poisoned, or maybe it is. Nobody knows when our last day is. Ha ha ha. You know, I think he's just I revisit his books so often because he not only understood the absolute depths of the absurdness of existing, but was able to have a laugh about them. So huge inspiration for me. Yeah.
Pretty cool. You know, I like that you're shooting some names and some good films out there, so I can do some research and I can watch some films and
Yeah.
always learn a little bit from each of you guests. So looking ahead, what's next for you? More books, films, or something entirely different?
Everything all at once. I made a list. I had to make a list today because I was like, how am I ever going to do all of this? It's very exciting to have a huge list of stuff that I haven't done yet. But I have 2 films in post-production. I have 3 full drafted novels to polish. I have a play I want to perform with one of my friends. I have an hour of stand-up comedy I'm going to try and do in Edinburgh next year. I have another whole play that I might direct with a local theatre production company. I have the 2nd year of our film festival, and then I have a short film. A short film I'm going to get animated probably next year as well. But I mean, all of this stuff gets done
like,
a little bit each day. Yeah, you've only
this
just,
is I'm going down the rabbit hole. Like I'm just going down, 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 down.
Yeah. You've only just heard the beginning of me. If you didn't hear my name yet, this is the beginning of a long career of an exhausting list of stuff that I have given myself to do. But I'm so pleased with everything that's coming out. I think it's all great, and I hope you'll check it out.
So you mentioned the animated. You
Yes.
do cartoons?
No, I found an animator on Instagram, and I contacted him about a project I had, and I sent him a short film script, and I said, I think this would work in your style, and he seems to be amenable to it. So without jinxing it, I think we're going to start working on that next year, and then I get to learn all about how you make an animation, because when I was judging the film festival, we got 1 or 2 animations, but they're not so common, and definitely haven't seen anything in this style on this topic. So I think it will be something really interesting and unique. Yeah.
Well, Leo, you have to keep me posted with that because I'm really looking into animation because I'm writing a children's book. So yeah, I'd like to know more about this animation.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Yeah, stay connected to me. So Leo, what final words do you have for the listeners, and where can they get your book, and how can they reach you, and all that good stuff?
Yeah, okay, final word for listeners. Thank you so much for listening to me. So glad to be connected to all of you. Please go to Pulp Literature's website and you can find Bar Hopping for Astronauts. You can pre-order it. It's coming out mid-October, I think. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, Leo X Robertson. Please connect to me because I have new films. Just as you just heard, I've got everything coming out all the time, and I'm excited about all of it. So I really appreciate you being here, and hope you're having a lovely day.
Well, I really appreciated this conversation because we went down some rabbit holes that I didn't even expect to go down, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
I did have the stand-up comedy here because I did find that last night. I was like, oh. Before we wrap up, though, I want to get into the coding app. You said that you did a failed development for an app. For any of the app listeners out there, what advice would you have for them before we wrap up, Leo?
Get into it. You can do it. Don't tell yourself that you're not fit for this. That was my mistake. I didn't investigate coding for the longest time because I thought I don't have the patience or the brain for this. But I did make I'm developing an app that's like I think it's started to work without jinxing it. But it helps you with subtitle timing because currently I have to manually edit all the timing of my subtitles, and there's very strict rules about that for different distribution platforms. So I thought this is a very tedious task that I bet I can automate. So why don't you try that? Think of some dull activity you do every day on the computer and ask yourself whether or not you could get the computer to do it for you, and then give it a go.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And if you want to know more about coding and all that, you can always reach out to Leo, and have a conversation with him. If you'd like to have him as a guest, you can find him. His website is visible on the site here. Leo, if you just want to spell out your website for the audio listeners, and then I'll do a closing summary of today's tea time, and then we'll wrap it up.
Sure. You can find me at leoxrobertson.wordpress.com.
Awesome. Thank you. Closing summary of today's tea time with Leo X. Robertson has been an inspiring journey into creative process. A reminder that breaking rules often leads to innovation, and building new worlds begins with daring to imagine differently. Through his insight, Leo showed us how storytelling can challenge norms, stretch boundaries, and open up new possibilities. Thank you, Leo, for bringing your creative audacity to the tea time table and reminding us that true art lives where courage meets imagination. And we will be back at 7 p.m. with a golden tea time. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see everybody at 7 p.m.